Well, there's been a lot of reaction in response to New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's keynote speech last night at the Republican National Convention. Many had thought Christie's tough love approach would land him the VP spot, and the governor was on Romney's so-called short list. So, what worked in his speech and what didn't?
Here to comment is former presidential candidate and former mayor of New York City itself, who hung out with the New Yorkers last night on the floor, Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Welcome back, Mr. Mayor.
We had a great time.
Absolutely.
All my old pals.
So there was a report that Governor Christie was going to come out, really kind of emanated from you, and was told to tone it down a little. Number one, do you think it's true? And number two, did he?
Well, I think he gave the speech the convention wanted him to give, which was to give a philosophical contrast between a failed Obama.
He's philosophical, Mr. Hey, idiots, get off the beach.
But that's the thing they wanted him to do. And Chris is a very smart guy, very accomplished guy, very good lawyer. He gave exactly the speech that the Romney campaign and the convention wanted him to give.
I remember you were standing out there endorsing Chris Christie. You were one of the first people to endorse Chris Christie.
Do you remember where he announced? Right in front of Corzine's apartment.
I do.
Right.
I do remember.
Went right to his apartment. I'm running for governor, and I'm taking the job away from this guy.
We didn't know he was looking for $10 million at the time, which he still has lost.
Right. And last night, they didn't really need the attack dog, because I understand the campaign feels that so many Americans already have a bad image, a negative image of Barack Obama. They wanted to set up the vision thing, and he started the ball.
I think that's right. And he basically laid the groundwork for what I think will be Paul Ryan's speech tonight. This is we have a president who fails to make tough decisions. He's afraid to take on Medicare. He's afraid to take on Social Security. And if we keep having this fear, we're going to lose it. And I think Paul Ryan tonight can say, we're not afraid to take these things on, and we're not taking Medicare away from you. We're going to save it for you, because this guy is going to make it go bankrupt.
Well, one of the things I think a lot of people were surprised about Governor Chris Christie's speech last night was they might have expected him to say more get off the beach kind of lines and show up in front of Corzine's house. Did they expect the softer side of Chris Christie? Listen to this.
The greatest lesson that Mom ever taught me, though, was this one. She told me there would be times in your life when you have to choose between being loved and being respected. Now, she said to always pick being respected. She told me that love without respect was always fleeting, but that respect could grow into real and lasting.
All right, so the softer side.
Interesting thing, my father taught me the same thing. My father would always say to me, it's more important that you respect me than love me. And if you respect me, you'll eventually love me in the right way. Right. And that's the way I conducted myself as mayor. It was more important for me to do the right thing as the mayor than it was to have people, fawning over.
Right. And are we seeing this in the governorships all across the country, from Ohio to Indiana to New Jersey? Hey, I know the polls are going to dip. But this is what's got to be done.
Yeah, Chris represents a group of governors that are very much like him. They may have slightly different styles, but they're willing to cut expenses. They're willing to deal with pensions so they can save them. Sure. They're willing to take on unions and make sure the unions aren't really taking advantage. That takes a lot of courage to do that. And I think you can look at Michigan, you can look at Wisconsin, you can look at Ohio, you can look at Virginia. You have guys like Chris Christie. And I think that's what he was representing last night.
And in fact, last night we heard from a lot of the reformers. And then with the keynoter, we also heard Chris Christie do a little zinger. Did you pick up on this? Listen.
There's only one thing missing now: leadership. It takes leadership that you don't get from reading a poll. You see, Mr. President, real leaders don't follow polls. Real leaders change polls.
Okay, so it's all about leadership. And
that's absolutely right. And taking on the things that this president has failed to take on because he's afraid. Failed to tell the American people the truth about Social Security, about Medicare. Setting up a commission to make recommendations on the budget and the economy, the Simpson-Bowles commission, and then just ignoring them. Just like, oh my, not meeting with his jobs council for months and months and months while he goes out and raises money. This is a president who is guided very much by one thing and one thing alone: getting himself reelected. And the best advice I got when I first became mayor was, act like you're a one-term mayor. Forget about getting reelected. If you don't get reelected, you can be proud of yourself. And if you do, you can get reelected for good reasons.
Was that from Dinkins because he wanted his job back?
No.
It wasn't? Okay, I just want to make sure.
That's from Bill Powers, who I sat with last night.
Gotcha.
Great speech last night.
Oh, I think it was an A+ for what he had to do. All of us who know him wanted to see him go out there and just, punch the heck out of President Obama, which he's perfectly capable of. I think it's a real mark of what an effective speaker he is, that he could do something different and do it very effectively. And I thought Ann Romney was remarkable.
Off the chart.
Particularly given the fact that she's never given a speech like that before. Chris is a professional, so he can do 5 different kinds of speeches. She's not a professional.
All right, Mary, we're going to step aside for a minute. You're sticking around.
And we've been talking about who would be Mitt Romney's in his cabinet.